Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hot Takes League of Legends edition. Just me and Davide this week. How's it going, Davide?
Hello, hello. All good, all good. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. I just wondered your thoughts on something quickly. What advice would you give to women trying to compete in League of Legends during their period? You don't have to actually answer that.
Ooh.
But let's just dive into that first topic. Yeah, let's not waste any time because it feels
I
still
guess.
very
Wait. I
fresh.
guess the first one is not to just listen to Bwipo's takes and like don't be bothered by him. Like obviously, be aware of what he says, but just like don't listen to him. I guess.
Yeah. Um, just for clarity, I'm sure everyone would know anyway, but just to briefly explain what is actually going on. I'll play the clip quickly. So this just kind of went nuclear on in the league community last night. Of course, there's been the stuff with Bwipo and Dokla, and I Will Dominate. Like he's in like a two-front war right now with those two guys already. And then a clip from a few days ago of his stream came out where he says this. I don't know if you can hear Davide.
Wait, is it actually?
Pretty quiet actually.
Well, I think there's just not enough support for female pro players and female, basically, women's anatomy and their monthly cycles are extremely different from males, and there's no proper support system for women to go through what they're going through.
It maybe not that crazy yet. He's technically true that stuff is different. Okay, let's see where he's going with this one.
When it comes to competition, in my opinion, at least. And I think a lot of people, even men that play this game, just tilt out of their fucking minds when they play League of Legends. So
True.
when a woman is on the wrong part of the month to play competitively, right? I mean, there's a time in the month where you should not be fucking playing competitive games as a woman, in my opinion. This is my experience having lived with one a while. She played a lot of League Ranked. It was just it was really obvious when she was just getting super irritated at every little thing. And that's not trying to be sexist or anything, it's just the way it was.
Thoughts? I don't know how much of it, if this sound was coming through. Um, yeah, that was a bit. I mean, there's many times where like for Bwipo, you feel like tell him just maybe talk a bit less, and like just it's just like this thing with Bwipo where which is what the other dramas he was in, where he does just like one of these people that talks very confidently about things where they clearly don't know what they're talking about, or yeah, just someone talking confidently but maybe doesn't know that they're not actually educated on what they're talking about. Yeah, just the way. I mean, it's just a fucking mad take that, like, literally saying that while women are in that period, they should not be competing competitively. Which, let's be real, if you're to dissect that, that would mean that there's basically no way a woman could be an esports pro. Is not like directly what he's saying, but if you just follow the logic, they can't fucking choose when that's going to happen. And if it happens during a tournament, he's saying that they shouldn't be playing competitively when that happens. And if they're playing in a league, of course it's going to happen. I just can't.
Yeah.
I was kind of stunned.
The whole thing for me was just him saying that he was basing himself on like the experience coming from I think one of his exes. Like it's literally extrapolating like everything from one case, even if that case were to be true. And I think apparently, like I saw on social this morning that like his ex came out, like she kind of defended him, which is like I guess good, in terms of like how the relationship is or used to be. But it's just that I think being like a public figure, you just need to be very careful with how you phrase things, and
It,
obviously, you know,
yeah.
these are some of the major consequences that happen when you start talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of crazy that it's all happening at the same time right after the Doku thing.
Yeah.
That you can kind of also say that it's subjective. Like him saying that he thought like Dokla didn't deserve to play, and he had like other players in his mind that could like potentially make it a start on the team before him. But the whole thing is just that it's just crazy that it's all happening in such a like a pivotal moment. Because obviously now FlyQuest is in the LTA championship, and obviously they're already like bound for Worlds, but obviously you want them to kind of win, especially considering how they've always been the best team in the region. And obviously, technically, NA's best shot at doing something, and this is kind of the things that you want to avoid. I think I'm particularly impressed by FlyQuest's like swiftness in trying to make like work our way around it. Just think that obviously like Bwipo now has to kind of go low profile, because otherwise if something like this happens again, it's not good for anyone involved.
Yep.
Obviously, especially from a competitive perspective, because I don't want to like make direct comparison, but even like Shanks in the LPL like a few months ago, like I think it was like 2 months ago, right after MSI and EWC, when that stuff came out, and then like AL started really like downfalling in terms of performance, you know.
It was literally giving me vibes of like old bloke down the pub talking about his like slagging off his missus. It kind of gave me memories of seeing that happen, but it's just so bizarre. Like it's been pointed out, obviously. I mean, last night, if anyone was on the timeline last night, it was going crazy. And one of the obvious things pointed out was just the fact that women obviously do a lot of high stakes jobs that aren't like pro gaming, and they can somehow manage in these other environments. So I don't see how playing video games are going to be particularly different. Yeah, and FlyQuest have now said that he is. It says here they're suspending him for the next series, which is in the LTA championship, where it's, let's be real, like it should be a free win for them. They're against one of the Brazilian sides, and then he's donating his share, or his share of any prize money will be donated to causes that support women in gaming. But then let's be real, like I thought I had it on the other tab, which I didn't. Never mind. The prize pool is like not crazy in league regional things anyway. So the winner will get $80,000, the winning team, and the org presumably would take a cut of that, and then it would be split with the players, maybe split with the coaches. So it would be like some number of thousands he'd lose probably if they were to go on and win it. Which on a player, he's probably on a big salary. Like let's be real, it's probably not something he'll lose sleep over. And then that one series would be inconsequential anyway. So it's kind of like punishing him without having to really do like a harsh punishment, especially one that would affect the team. Because also, let's be honest, they're not gonna. I don't imagine they would. They're gonna do their best to like still have him playing as much as possible, because obviously he's a good player and their team is gonna be better with him in it. So there's been like some pushback from the community I've seen as well, just that the punishment isn't big enough. But then also, I guess it's now balls in Riot's court. Like, there's no word from Riot yet, but you assume there's going to be some kind of ruling, or at least some investigation to see if there's certain rules that he's broken. I'd be very surprised if there's not some rule that he's broken, saying stuff like that. It's crazy. This is like the LTA getting back to its or get back to like the old LCS days of like the WWE kind of drama, which let's be honest, makes it more interesting. But it was better when it was just like him and Dokla like having digs at each other rather than sexist remarks. That's kind of like, it sours it a bit and it makes the rest a bit less fun. Shout out to Dokla though, who did have a banger reaction. I don't know if you saw this. of the domino effect.
I saw
C9
it
going to
yesterday.
barbecue, big dose.
He's been memeing. I think I saw another post him like memeing another like on another post. He just posted later, like when also that one.
That's quality. Yeah, I won't like.
I guess that's like this is good though. Like I like this kind of like banter. Obviously not on the topic, like on this topic specifically, but just like just having like players go one at each other.
Yeah.
It's not bad to see it from that perspective, because I think it's also kind of what drives then the people getting into interested in the matchups. So like I started
100%.
getting a lot more interested into Fly 100 teams like in the playoffs, like heading to playoffs
Yeah.
when they played one like against each other. The other one thing I wanted to mention is now that obviously Bwipo doesn't play the first series, they got the Turkish guy Gakkos, which is super interesting to see. It's just that I think not a lot of focus will go to him just because of how everything has been happening. It's just kind of sad that like FlyQuest brought him in as a sixth man, and I kind of was expecting him to kind of be like rest and driver for CFO, or like potentially be CFO, like have that interaction going forward. And the first time he comes up is due to Bwipo being suspended, so that's not ideal. But I guess he gets his shot. He doesn't, I would assume, doesn't get as much pressure by playing against an LTA South team, even though technically Vivo K-Stars has got our LEC boy Trimby. I'm not sure if you remember him, but like it's always good to see
Seal the coach, isn't
LEC
it, from
players.
like
Yeah,
in
the
youth
rogue guy,
ranges.
the rogue guy, Seal. Yeah. So good to see them also qualifying for Worlds, and finally we get to see someone else from the LTA South. So we had we didn't have them at first time. We had Furia, MSI, and EWC. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. Like didn't make it through the playoffs. But yeah, so it's just let's just wait this weekend. No, when they play 20th, they play next weekend. Still got plenty of time, I guess, to train and stuff.
Yeah, cool. What do you think would be an appropriate punishment if let's say Riot were going to do an investigation? How far do they go with it? Because the awkward thing that they're going to have with this sort of thing now is that any immediate punishment they do, that kind of hurts the tournaments. Like if they do something that impacts Worlds, like their last thing that I'm sure Riot wants to do is do some sort of ruling that makes Worlds a worse spectacle. Like they don't want to just kill one team off by like banning one of their players or something, and they're kind of in this situation where there has to be like some show from Riot that they've got to do something, especially as a company that's had its own history with misconduct with women. I mean, it wouldn't look good if they don't take this seriously. But then at the same time, they've got their own event that they've got to think about, and I'm sure that it would be in the back of their minds. Do they do something that impacts that or not? How do you see that happening? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I wouldn't like. It's kind of tough because I think it would be like the ideal thing would be that there will be like a 2-week suspension coming in right after LTA stops. I'm not sure like if there's like a rule that says how much of a like if there's like already a fixed punishment set in. Like obviously the one thing would be like he gets a 2 weeks punishment right after LTA, and then that would mean that technically he cannot play for like 2 weeks. But then there's like 2-week break between LTA and Worlds, so that would be kind of like the way to kind of work a way around it. I don't think with this kind of stuff, I don't think that, however, there will be like punishment, because I remember like having worse, like not like worse stuff, but just like all the stuff being to the same level, to the same severity, and not being directly punished, especially at this point in time. I think.
Yeah. Well, what came from the
I
Shanks thing?
think was
Wasn't it
it
like
was
a
it
fine?
was it Eminas? What do you say?
I was saying, what happened with Shanks? Was there a punishment there?
No, he didn't get anything.
I guess like maybe it could be different
Like,
teams doing that. I don't know.
cause like I remember like MNS. I don't know if you remember the
I'm seeing on his
how do you
Leaguepedia, October 3rd, 2023, M&S is fined $15,000 for using derogatory and offensive language against another player, and is required to complete an
yeah.
educational training course on professionalism.
Yeah, so basically that was I think during solo queue. Like he was playing a game and then he made a like xenophobic comment. And that was directly like on the game during like on stream and stuff. And that was like getting clipped and stuff. Like he didn't get any suspension whatsoever. And
Yeah.
that was 2023. I don't remember like Cena made it to Worlds that year though. Because that happened like early October. Yeah,
No, they did. They did go towards it,
they played at like a Worlds.
and it
And so he
happened
got fined like that.
right before Worlds. That fine as well.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks before Worlds.
So
like
that's probably the precedent then. Yeah, well remembered.
I'm not saying it's precedent because I think it's two very different things.
It's
but
similar
like,
in the sense it's like, well, it's inappropriate
timing wise and stuff wise, it's
around
like the
game.
closest you can get.
Yeah.
You can get like the closest case you can get. Although I think there are like different ways to judge this.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's still like someone making a very like clearly making a mistake on how he has said stuff publicly.
Yeah.
So I think some fine will come around.
Yeah, I felt that was the most likely. It's probably like a hefty fine, and especially with it being around women's stuff as well. Again, because like it's history, but also it's like the game changers starting. Like this is like the worst time to have a controversy like this. Well, the second worst behind the lawsuits, but yeah. So I mean, they've got to kind of make a show of it. I would imagine like it should be at least a hefty fine, and then like probably some educational thing as well. Literally like unironic, because I know a lot of the times you get these things. It happens in like, well, it just gives me memories in football as well when a player says something and it says, oh, they have to go and do an educational thing. You always think, oh, it's like bollocks. Like they don't. I mean, they'll probably go and sit in a classroom and listen to something, but it's all stuff they're going to know. Like, don't be racist. Like they know they shouldn't be racist. They don't really need to be educated. The way he was talking here, like it actually feels like unironically he needs to just actually be given like some sex ed biology lessons for a couple of hours just to explain how it works and that women, their lives can go on at that time. But there you have it. Some other stuff then. I'm gonna make a jump to Valorant just for one thing I wanted to talk about. It kind of relates to League.
Is
anyway.
it the song?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the song. Although I'm not really fussed. I'm not that keen on the song. Not my cup of tea. But no, there was.
I didn't mind it. Just like my thing is that it doesn't look like a champ song. You know.
Yeah, it didn't. It's not like.
Get...
It's not one of those like epic. It's not like an epic song that you associate with.
Yeah, it's not an epic song.
Epic
song. I feel like it's a good song that you can like plug when you want to play games. So like if I want to like start playing Valorant, for example, it's something that I would plug, just like to get myself hyped.
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's all like worlds level, like champs level.
Exactly. It feels like it would be a song for some content that does relate to the game, but maybe if it was like, if it was like a champ reveal trailer or something like that, or an act animation or something, it doesn't really come across as like an epic thing before a tournament to get you in the mood. But anyway, there was some other massive news this week, or over the weekend, I should say, that Koi got kicked from VCT EMEA. Their partnership was ended by Riot, and there was a fair bit of controversy around it. It goes without saying that it was pretty shocking. It had certainly not happened before. Although, well, so let me just explain what happened. So on Saturday, Riot announced Koi were kicked from VCT EMEA. They said it was a breach of the contractual agreement. That was Riot's reasoning. They didn't say any specifics beyond that, and then they just kind of explained that the teams are, like, the players are now free agents and so on. At the same time, Ibai had a video that he dropped that was ready to go at the same time as the announcement, where he says, we know that our Valorant journey hasn't been very good. Like, the team, they'd never been a competitive team in EMEA. They'd never really had any sort of half-decent results, to be fair. And he said that, you know, we can understand why Riot might do this. They're within their rights to do this. And kind of spent the first few minutes of this video kind of setting the scene in that perspective, but then kind of switched it to explaining how the communication of it happened. He said that on Friday afternoon, Riot asked them for a phone call. They jumped on the call, Riot, and then Riot basically said, "Oh yeah, hi guys, you are kicked from VCT, and we're going to announce it tomorrow." And apparently, according to Ibai, they were kind of like begging to negotiate during the call, but Riot were like having none of it. They'd made their mind up, and it was going to be announced 24 hours later. There's also, as Ibai kind of guesses at, which seems like a fairly safe guess in my opinion, is that the reason this is probably being triggered, or part of the reason, is that Gentlemates, who had gotten into VCT EMEA as an Ascension team, they just got relegated after their first year. They probably, Riot would prefer them to be a partner team. So they're another team that's like a streamer org with a really popular French streamer or like YouTuber or something. But also the difference there being that this guy Squeezy, I think his name is, does stream all the games. Like he was co-streaming every Valorant game of Gentlemates. They were always like one of the most watched teams. Whereas this year, Ibai had largely taken a step back from streaming altogether, like VCT plus League. Like he was barely co-streaming either of them. He was doing all like IRL stuff, and just like all his million other projects that he has. And so, what's been reported by the Esports Advocate and Sheep Esports both reported this, that like in the partnership contract that Koi had, it actually had a clause relating to Ibai specifically co-streaming, which apparently was unique to Koi. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Carmine Corp maybe have a similar thing. But anyway, so he was supposedly required to like co-stream a certain number of hours, and again this year had basically not co-streamed. They did have a replacement streamer that they like Koi brought up to kind of replace him on their Valorant broadcast, and this is where it kind of gets contested a little bit, because like from Ibai's video, he sort of says, you know, we had no idea Riot had any issues. That guy Adamu, who is the like co-owner, CEO of Koi, he made his own statement, also hinting towards that being the issue, saying that, you know, we offered alternatives to Riot, which we thought did really well, and these performed really well. But at the end of the day, Riot clearly weren't happy about it. But what's coming from McCoy's camp is that they had no idea Riot was that unhappy. They didn't, like, they said that we didn't get any warnings. You know, there was no kind of conversation like, you know, if Ibai doesn't start streaming in the next 3 months, you're going to get kicked. It was literally just overnight, you're out. Whereas what Sheep Esports reported was that there was some communication of it. Whether it was like a clear warning is maybe it wasn't, but at the very least Riot had brought it up with Koi that they weren't fulfilling these obligations. Whereas again, Koi says that, like, you know, we got this new streamer, we told Riot we were going to get this new streamer, and we didn't know they had an issue with it. Which is all well and good. Like, you can be, from Koi's perspective, you can be blindsided. I think that's fair. But at the same time, even if you got this replacement, and let's say, you know, we know Ibai's taking a step back, we've got this new guy, we think he's going to do well, we think the viewership's fine. If the contract still says Ibai is meant to be the one streaming it, then at the end of the day, you would still have knowingly been breaching the contract like the whole year. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you know, surely like the only thing they could have done if Ibai was going to take a step back and that was something that he needed because he said it was like mental health related and stuff like that as well, that contract needed to be revised. Like
Adjustment, yeah,
like
exactly.
if it has Ibai specifically, which is what Sheep reported, then if he's not streaming, like again, there could be ulterior motives from Riot. The fact that they weren't willing to negotiate at all tells me they probably are settled on Gentlemates coming back, even if not Gentlemates, like I would imagine they've probably like decided who they'd want in for them to not be willing to listen. Because then if Ibai had said, basically Ibai in his video he said like, you know, I was telling Riot that I'll come back, I'll stream every game next year, I'll stream every league game as well to kind of make up for it, but they didn't want to listen, they didn't want to negotiate at all. If he did come back and stream every league game and every Valorant game, that would actually be very useful for them. So the fact that they wouldn't accept any wiggle room there tells me they were probably had their minds made up on what their next steps look like. Plus also he's contractually obliged to stream this year and didn't. So even if he promises to do it next year, like that might not feel like a very strong promise from Riot. So yeah, it's this whole nuclear thing. And what's been really interesting is seeing the difference in response. Like when I've seen people like on the timeline league related responding to this, it's just like complete shock and surprise. Like Koi is massive, their fan base is huge.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on here? When you see the Valorant reaction, apart from Koi fans who are pissed off, everyone else looks at it and is like, oh, okay, fine, we're not going to miss them. Like, apart from the Koi fans, no really has any connection with Koi in Valorant, just because of the competitive wise, they just genuinely haven't been very good, and so no one, sadly, is going to miss them very much, apart from the Koi fans. But then, you know, I think it was Sideshow on Platchat. Platchat is this like big Valorant podcast, and Sideshow is one of the bigger talent. He'd kind of said like, you've got all these Koi fans going, you know, going crazy now on Twitter, and they're replying to like Leo Farrier, who's like the head of Valorant esports. His last tweet from like 3 weeks ago, they're all now replying to it. All the Koi fans like spamming it in his replies, kind of saying like, where was this like where was the energy from these fans when Koi were playing matches? Like you didn't feel this fan base really in Valorant like you do in League of Legends, and now they're kicked out. Obviously, it's they're all up in arms. But there you go, and it's kind of interesting now what that relationship could be like with Koi and Riot, because like Ibai was very clearly not happy with Riot. They're pulling out their academy team. They had an academy team in like a Spanish like ERL equivalent.
Yeah.
And they're going to pull out Valorant altogether, and now they're talking about going into CS. Which when you're talking about that the day you get kicked out of ECT, like it's clearly from spite. Like maybe they were thinking about it anyway, but to be like starting to talk about it immediately, clearly it's to kind of get back at Riot a bit. But then they are still partners in League of Legends, so they've kind of got to keep that relationship going. It's yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. And just to clarify as well, because one thing I keep seeing now, and this was like more from the league side, is they see Koi get kicked out and they go, oh my god, Riot really can, like really Riot are willing to do this. Get Dignitas out, get whoever out, like start talking about teams in league that they want out. It's worth like clarifying it is a totally different partnership. Like in league, most of these are franchises where the teams buy the slot, so the team owns the slot. Riot can't just get rid of them very easily. Whereas in Valorant, it's a partnership system where the teams haven't bought in. Riot owns all of the slots, and they invite the teams to play. So Riot can much more easily choose to get rid of people when they want, especially like in this case, if they have breached the contract. Well, then of course they can do it easily, and they don't have to pay them back any money or nothing. So,
yeah.
So that is very different.
Yeah, paying them back the money would be kind of the major thing, like the
Exactly.
major difference maker.
Exactly, especially when
like,
there's teams in league that paid like 20-30 million for theirs, buying it off somebody else. God knows how you figure that out. Anyway, had you seen that news? Like, what was your reaction?
I actually seen the news. I actually followed everything because it happened during the weekend. It kind of blew me off guard, just because of the timing. I was actually more concerned about apparently like what was going behind the scenes for Koi in terms of competitive, like from the competitive side of things. Apparently they were looking to rebuild something with like a new coach coming
Yeah.
in for the new season, and obviously like imagine just you being the coach and it's like, oh, I get to work now, it's like reset next season, I get to
Exactly.
do something, or like I have the chance to prove myself, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you're gone, and now you don't even know where you're going to land, because like you said, if Gentlemates, for example, were to get the slot, you're not he's not going to likely to just be
Yeah.
placed into the new team, right?
Exactly. It's not like
Um,
like how
it's not
Navi
like
have just bought
G2 with
Rogue's slot and they
the
get all the contracts. Like these players, all the Koi
yeah.
players are free agents. It will be from step one, whoever
Yeah.
comes in.
What was it? The Guardian? With when
The
G2 bought
guard,
out
yeah.
the
So
guard, yeah, sorry.
so that was
Yeah.
that was a team that had just been promoted via
Yeah.
Ascension, and then yeah, the guard, like I don't know, I didn't see that. I don't remember the details of it, like if they were financial issues or something, but basically they couldn't go into VCT, but like, and I don't know if this is a rules thing or like right, just kind of like common sense to let it happen, was that they kind of just said, okay, like the players have earned the spot in VCT, if and another org can come and pick them up, and let them in, and like basically take it, which is what G2 did, and that's how
Uh,
G2 kind of walked into VCT with this amazing team now.
yeah, so like as far as I know, it's usually the way it works. It's like if you're like an org wanting to get into a T1 region, you have to prove that you're financially healthy, that you got investors, that you got like all this needed structure. I think that the guard at the time
Right.
didn't really have that level of structure ready. And obviously they had to play next year because they were confirmed to get into VCT. And so that's like that's why I think what happened when G2 said, oh, we like there's like a good opportunity for us to get into like a VCT tier 1 region. And so like they took the chance, and I think it worked out. But yeah, that's kind of what I meant. It's like it's not that those are
Yeah,
the players, and someone else will replace, like will get their place, right? These are
it's a
just gone,
shame.
and it's just kind of, yeah, it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I think they had a couple of players that were contracted till next year as well. So if you're one of those players, you feel like you've got a job for the next year, and now suddenly you don't necessarily. And like you say, like they brought a new coach. They said that there was like 50 players lined up for tryouts. Obviously it's a bummer for all of those. But yeah, I suppose the only like silver lining for those players is they are free agents immediately, whereas everybody else is still has to wait for free agency, and like at the moment can only do like verbal agreements, I suppose, and can't sign anything. Whereas the previous Koi players are free to sign now. Not that probably makes much difference. Like everything's done with verbal agreements anyway. But have it. Let's keep on the topic of Europe next then, and have a chat about the LEC. If we jump back to League of Legends, and I guess like the bigger, kind of beyond like what's happening in the games themselves, the bigger conversation right now is like just what's going on with the LEC, like format wise. People just there's just not like a great feeling around it at the moment, and I suppose it's kind of like I feel like at the start of last year, especially when they had like the layoffs on the broadcast, like the broadcast layoffs, and you felt like maybe the quality of the product was dipping a bit, and like it felt like a bit of negativity around the LEC, and then I feel like that kind of got fixed with kind of like the rise of Koi and Carmine Court, really, just that those two big
Yeah.
teams coming in and performing well alongside G2, kind of just got the general good feeling back in the LEC, like it was entertaining again, and kind of got over those issues. But yeah, now it seems like the format's a bigger issue, and again, it's kind of the feeling around it is dipping. Yeah, just what are your thoughts in general? Because I think there's a few issues, right? Like you've done a good article on it here, like about not being enough games for starters. Like where GX had the thing of playing like two
Yeah,
series
it's
across a
been
month,
like,
basically.
so like first of all, let's put it out that way. I'm glad that like Riot, like the LEC team, is actually already aware of everything that's been like talked about, because there are some times where they're probably like a little bit too slow, and I think they quickly jumped on this. I think it was worth testing out something like something new, in the sense that, you know, like even the LCK kind of tried to do something new with the groups thing, right? With the whole season, with the Rise and Legend, and also like in the LPL as well, there was like Group Ascent with Group Nirvana, which is basically like splits top teams and bottom teams. I think the main issue here was just the lack of games that led into like you don't really know how teams are going into the playoffs. Like obviously you know that like some of the top teams will still be top teams, but like they haven't played as much. And you don't really want to see that when Worlds is coming in, like, or when you have to kind of decide who goes to Worlds. I guess the main, like, my biggest issue in the other hand was the schedule. Like, yeah, like they had VCT playoffs, the AMA playoffs going on during the weekend. Obviously, that took, I would assume, priority just because of the importance heading into the into champions. Um, but like it wasn't. I don't think it was communicated that well. Like most people didn't know games were being played on
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday, and obviously that, you know, that is going to hurt viewership whatsoever, because like people work on the weekdays and probably have stuff going on in their lives, and it's not something that you can
Yeah.
magically get rid of. And then the third thing, I think it was just, you know, just the lack of inconsistency, like the lack of consistency between formats. It's just like it felt like, right, like LEC just wanted to do like something different every time, just to make it fresh, which I can see why you would do that. But if your goal is to bring in new people, or like you want to have more casual viewers in a sense to get into the league, you kind of want to have something that is more easily understandable for someone like who doesn't really actually watch every week. So like for example, if someone who watches like once every 2 or 3 weeks, he still kind of wants to know, just by watching at the like looking at the standings, or maybe just watching a little bit of the like pre-match stuff, how the teams have been. And I think it's been tougher to do with the groups thing, because there's literally not enough matches. And aside from, you would say, like G2, MKOI, KC being the top teams, you don't really know what's going on aside from those. And just that doesn't really help bring in new people. It just, and obviously all the like veteran viewers are not going to be satisfied either, because they're usually the hardcore ones who tune in to most games, and the game like the volume hasn't been there.
Yeah. It's like the thing of the scheduling. First of all, I understand it. Like they've got Valorant and League out of the same studio, and
Yeah.
for Valorant, I think this year they've specifically tried to be having playoffs on weekends. Like I think from what Riot said, I get the impression that maybe the teams weren't happy that playoffs before had been on weekdays, because they're like the biggest matches. You know, why shouldn't we be playing on a good time? So then trying to like accommodate that, had issues in Valorant earlier in the year where VCT EMEA had like a massive gap before playoffs, like a 2 week break, and then that meant that their season or their stage finished later than everybody else, which meant before going to Masters Toronto they had like no time to prep, whereas every other region had like a week or more than they did. And then yeah, this time it's kind of like LEC that's biting the bullet, where okay, we've got Valorant on the weekend, but then we've got to shift LEC to be Monday, Tuesday for a random week. And I understand it's difficult. Like they've got this like state of the art studio / arena that they've spent millions and millions on. Of course, they're going to use it. At the same time, though, like let's be real, it's like a self-made issue. The fact that you've got them running out the same thing and it causes problems. That's something that's their choice, and you can understand why obviously they made it. But it's hard to see how there is ever a solution without doing like what they do in NA with the like the cupboard, the people
The
playing in the cupboard.
backstage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I kind of thought they were going to start doing, to be honest. So for Ascension later this year, which is like the Valorant tournament that they do to see who's going to be promoted from tier 2 into tier 1. One thing that they changed this year is that all of it was going to be LAN. So last year, like part of this little tournament is online, and then like the final couple of days are in the arena. And people didn't really like that because it's so important. Like for teams to get promoted, we should have it all offline. So Riot said this year they would be all offline, but only the last couple of games would be with a live final. The others would be from their high performance. I can't remember what they called it, like high performance setups or something. So like, and there's like these high performance things that are currently being refurbished, which comes across as like a similar kind of thing. Like there's a room in the office upstairs where they've got some PCs laid out where people can play. My understanding though is that they're not going to use that to do things at the same time, which was my like first thought when I read it, that they've got these rooms available. Kind of made me think that they're getting ready to be able to do things simultaneously, which I feel like is their only option now in the situation they're in. I feel like they've got to start being able to do that for LEC and VCT, because otherwise one of them is always going to be having to bite the bullet and miss out on stuff.
It's always like the trade-off. Because like
Exactly.
obviously on one hand you kind of want to have different days to maximize people watching. So for example, like what if someone who watches both Valorant and League, sometimes like I do, has to watch simultaneously? Like, can you actually follow both matches when they're going on at the same time? I think that while I don't think the crossover of people watching Valorant and League is as high, I think that it can be traded off by actually having, like I said, mentioned in the article, like with your co-streams, or like actually have kind of the co-streams help you out in driving the viewership and driving the engagement on matches that are not being broadcast or like are not being in the like arena thingy.
Yeah.
So you can kind of make sure that you can still get good numbers. Obviously there will be like lots of other issues behind it, like what if like the commercial value of the partnerships go down because this is not seen as a good thing, because like what if, like for example, KitKat, who has like all these segments in between the broadcast, they cut out because matches are not being like displayed anymore in that way, or you just probably just get like a slim down version or reduced down version of the broadcast and things like that. So that's always like a tricky thing to consider, and it's not just easy to say just put this week, put League this week, we can put VCT that weekend. I know for sure that Riot has a lot of more stuff to consider. It's just that I think there should be a better way to figure it out, and I think we've gotten to the point where we maybe have to try and consider whether having more play days would be a thing. Because like for example, the LCK still has 10 teams. Obviously they have a longer season and higher numbers, because obviously it's the best league in the world, the most competitive league in the world, but they play across 5 days. LPL used to play like every day of the week, literally every week, and obviously because they had more teams, so that was the only way you could fit everyone into the schedule by having BO3s every day. Should, like, the question now is, should the LEC also consider moving it from 3 days and increase the number of days being played, which then also kind of goes against what I said before about having matches being played on weekdays. But at the same time, if you don't do that, then you will never have enough enough time to actually have everyone play out matches, and so therefore you increase the game volume, because like by the way things stand, you're always going to be limited. Like you're always going to have a limited number of games, because you're not going to let like 2 matches being played at the same time, because that would kind of help out increasing the game volume, but that would mean like two teams do not get displayed at all. If you want to like fit them into the same like weekend or like same 3-day schedule. So the only way would be to increase it, but then if you increase it, that will you actually have enough engagement to explain that that was the right decision? So that's, I think, is the biggest point of discussion for Riot going forward, actually. Because I don't see anything else working out. Like I don't see it. Like I think like literally Riot has kind of experimented. Like the LEC has kind of experimented everything they could with the current format. They know that the group stage thing did not work out, so they know they have to play more games. But at the same time, can you actually fit into the schedule? Because like we literally saw that you can't.
Yeah.
Even with such a limited amount of games. So even if you were to increase it, how are you actually going to make sure that that will not interfere with Valorant?
Yeah.
And also at the same time work out for your audience. You know?
It would have to be online games. Like that's the only option. If they want to increase the games, they've got to do some online. And then even then, you've got to get like more broadcast personnel, I'm sure, because even like the Valorant League, they've obviously all got the people on site, but then like the broadcast production is done from their from their thing in Dublin. They'd need to have like a second team available there, I guess, to do things at the same time as well for games simultaneously. So it's difficult because as you've explained there's like a lot of different factors that would go into it and a lot of different things you could do, but that would affect all the other factors. I think you're right that like ultimately there needs to be more games, especially if you, like one of the overriding things that people always come back to as well is people are more interested when they feel like the teams have got a better shot internationally, and people always kind of call back to that when EU doesn't do so well in global events, then maybe there's less interest in the LEC because it's seen as like a weaker league, which maybe has got legs because like you think like LCK is as popular as it's ever been, and it just seems to be getting more and more popular every year. So maybe that that's got some truth to it, and part of the way that a lot of teams want to be able to go better internationally is from having more games. Like that's a clear frustration for the teams that they just don't play enough, don't get enough practice on stage or like in officials, and that's totally fair enough. But yeah, from Riot's perspective, then they've either got to have games 7 days a week, split between Valorant and LEC to try and get some more stuff going, or have things online, or have a different location altogether to have some if they want to have it in person still, which you don't see happening because they've clearly invested so much money already in their arena, and it would just be a huge cost to do like another live production somewhere else. So
yeah,
it's a bit difficult really, and lots of different options and things to think about. But I think especially like I feel like people do need just some consistency, like having a different format every single split. It is really messy, and especially for like casual viewers, I can't imagine how they would find it comfortable to follow. Like for all the issues that they had with like the older formats, where it was like 9 weeks of best of ones. At least it was simple as a casual to be able to follow that. You could tune in one night a week and watch all the teams. The standings were very clear to read. You didn't like the format was very easy to follow. Of course, the format was like at the end of the day a bit shit. But at least that one is just like simpler for the casual fans. Yeah.
I just wish like we could literally have a similar thing to the LCK. Maybe like not in terms of depth. Like I don't see LEC moving randomly to 5 days and playing like 2 BO3s every day until the end of week as a thing. But I kind of wish that we could find kind of somehow a formula that allows teams like basically allows the league to count results throughout the whole season, because it's so easier to follow. Like you said, just think about like traditional like football, for example. You can just look at the standings. You probably won't know how the team has been playing, but you probably know how they have been doing based on the amount of points they've scored, or like how many wins they got. like I think it's very clear, like by looking at the LCK ones, uh, like how some of the teams have performed relative to one another, and you kind of know who is expected to like make it to Worlds based on just looking at the standings. Obviously, there's like a little bit of like skewed or like outliers because like DK, for example, like obviously demolished everyone in the bottom group, or like beat most of them in the bottom group, and obviously so that's why they have a better score line than KT and Nongshen. But you still know like who's top and who is probably going to like be a playoff team. And I think it's actually like this year in terms of that, I think it's actually been positive compared to last year in terms of the fact that we actually started seeing more teams, not necessarily like constantly fighting with the top, like with the top, like the strongest, the like strongest squads, but at the same time, you know that there's potential upset. Like
doesn't feel like
Giant
it's
X is an
G2 and the rest anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that anymore. It's like you have Giant X, you have Vitality also, I think, somehow like stepped up this split. And then some other matches here and there that's like, oh, it's actually not that one-sided, and you don't get like 0-9 Rogue unless you're like, I mean, okay, Navi maybe didn't do such a great job, but I guess first split, first experience, there's like a lot to learn, and I don't think they had their eyes set on this year anyway, because why would you invest so much money into the first year when you don't have the experience, and then you also have such a tough run to make it to Worlds, while you can just like rebuild everything for 2026 slower, so more slowly. But yeah, speaking of that, like MKOI, because we mentioned them before, glad to see that they got to Worlds as well. Obviously, it's good to see like at least in terms of consistency, actually G2 and MKOI like stay consistent. They were the two teams that represented the Europe in MSI and WC, and I also think that's what like it keeps on proving that international competitions are the way to go to make the team stronger. So I'm just wondering now who will get the last spot between, I guess, Fnatic and KC.
Or well,
who knows?
Vitality as well. Still in the mix, aren't they?
Yeah, I had my eyes set on KC initially, but after the series against G2, I'm starting to get a little bit worried. Not sure if we have time to tackle it, but I don't know. It feels like to me that KC has maintained their floor, but they haven't really actually stepped it up much, or like they haven't stepped up as much as MKOI and G2 from that perspective. Honestly, like even MKOI has been quite messy. Now that I think of it, it's just that they play against Fnatic, who's is as equally as messy. So I don't know, man. It's kind of weird now.
Gun to your head, who's the third team to get the world?
I would still say KC, man. Like I'm being very critical, like how do you say, critical of KC, but it's just because I kind of would rate them like my expectations are set as highly as G2, and I wouldn't really want anything below that because I know that KC has the potential and the players to actually do well. And so I think they're kind of performing a little bit below my expectations, where I think MKOI and Fnatic are kind of closer to where I would expect them to be at. Because honestly, in terms of like just by looking at the players, the rosters, and the potential, like I would have put like G2, KC, MKOI as my top three. So like obviously G2 and MKOI made it. And now I need KC to make it. You know what I mean? Like Fnatic would be the other. I wouldn't mind seeing like Giant X, honestly. I know that they have been playing very well like this split, and I think they might deserve it. Like they deserve a chance for sure if in case we get it. But you know, you can always want to have the 3 strongest teams. And I don't. What I think Giant X can have the potential to make it. Like it's going to be their first Worlds.
Yeah.
You know, and we all know that like first Worlds experiences are not always the best ones. Remember Mad Lions Koi like a couple of years ago? Yeah, we kind of want to avoid that.
yeah, the rookie field one that was sad.
My boy Shadow got benched. Speaking of
Shadow got dismissed from the whole region and never came back. Yeah, it was a bit sad.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was like especially different as well. It was like the COVID one where they're locked in the hotels and you can't speak to anyone. You can't go outside. Probably made it like way worse. But yeah, I mean, it can happen for sure. Let's move on probably to the LCK then. And I agree with what you're saying about the format of it as well. And how, especially with the top teams, like with the split in the groups, it does just make so much more sense because I just don't see any sense really behind splitting them evenly when there's no like it's just weird. Like you get less games of the top teams against each other, so there's just less of the hype matches. And then the bottom teams, like at least if you split it into 2 groups with the shit teams at the bottom, at least they can like get some wins and their stories can be a bit more interesting as well.
But wasn't it like the LEC one? Wasn't it like teams get to choose who they want to like which group they want to fit in?
Right.
I think
it might be.
So like the whole thing for me, yeah, for the whole thing for me now, like that was kind of another issue. So like if you're for example like a 3rd, 4th place team, would you rather like go into the bigger group knowing that like into the stronger group? Wait, like for example, if you have like 1, 2 already placed, because obviously the top 2 teams get placed into different groups. Like if you're KC, who do you want to go with? Do you want to go with G2? Do you want to go MKOI? You choose one, and then like it comes Fnatic after. Like who would Fnatic want to? Do you want to stay with like 2 top teams?
Yeah.
With the fact that you probably won't make it in the top 2 for the playoffs, or like do you want to go into the other group? So it's always like that comes down like to being like another issue, because basically like teams are making like forcing themselves to make the decision between, do I want to play with the stronger group or like against stronger teams on paper, or do I actually want to make playoffs and like in a better position? So that's the whole thing. For example, like the LCK doesn't have that. It's literally if you're top 5, you get placed into one group. If you're bottom 5, you get placed into the other. You don't get to choose.
It makes so much sense because then also there's no question about what's the motivation for the teams. If you just put all the good teams together, especially like where they know they get into playoffs anyway, it's fine. That's like the only thing, I guess. Like the stakes are maybe a bit less in the top group because everyone's getting there anyway. But then at the same time, like especially when we're talking about the teams trying to get better for global events, and your G2, Koi, or whoever, and you're not getting to play against all of the top teams in your region for weeks. But then if you're like Gen.G, you've played T1 about 15 times this year. Probably not literally 15, but a lot of times of these like intense matchups that they have. And clearly they're just like, that is like the best practice environment they could have. They're playing against all the other top teams every week. Whereas in LEC, they've just got to keep playing against the shitters. At least split it, and it's just, I feel like it works better for everybody. Like maybe the only downside for the teams at the bottom is they don't get matchups against like the more you don't get to play G2 and you don't get to have your a match versus G2 on the broadcast. Maybe that hurts a bit. At the same time, though, again, you can like actually win some games maybe, and you can like just have more to play for in that sense. Whereas if you're playing against G2 and you're bottom in the league, then it's not really the stakes there either. I feel like for LEC they just did it because that's how they do it in Valorant, and I feel like they just thought like, oh well, everyone seems fine with it in VCT, so we'll just use that here as well. And I feel like in VCT probably just don't complain because that's That's the only thing they've got. They don't really know, not really had much of a scenario. Also, there's more teams, so there's 6 in each group, so you get a bit more variation still. Yeah, whereas a 5 in each is a bit different, I suppose.
I have a question for you. Like, this is kind of like an idea that came up to me. Because, like, if we kind of want to follow, like, not the traditional sports route, but kind of make it into, like, the season-long thing, would you mind having a season-long tournament, like, season in that sense? Well, like, obviously you would have playoffs being placed on the standings. But, for example, like, if you play, let's say, triple round robin, or triple round robin throughout an entire season. But like, because we like first stand and obviously the winter split in that sense lasts so little, you actually don't get to have play a best of 3 against all teams, or like against all teams more than once. And then to decide who goes to like the international, you just make the playoffs bracket, but you just place teams based on their seeding. So like, for example, G2 plays against like 8 of the teams, but in playoffs they get to play against the only team that they have never played just because they happen to be on that, like the 6th place team, for example. Would that be like bothering you, the fact that G2 has never played this team before going to playoffs? Because that's the other idea I was thinking of, because that basically you're able to kind of like dilute the whole season without actually losing the relevance and the consistency in the format, because you can make sure that you can slot all the calendar in with the BO3s and everything without actually increasing the game volume, like the game days, the match days, so that it doesn't become a costly thing for Riot from a financial perspective. But the downfall, like the trade-off would be some teams might have played against teams more than once. Some of them might have only played once. And so like there's kind of like inconsistency, as in like, oh, you might be punished because like what if, for example, G2 plays against Vitality, who's like 1st and 6th seed, but like since Vitality and G2 haven't played each other for long, once they get to playoffs, like Vitality somehow upsets G2, and G2 gets like punished for not being able like play more than once. I'm not sure if
I'm
you
struggling to
get
follow
what
a little bit with that. I'm a visual learner, Davide. If I saw it if there was a Wikipedia page, I would understand. But
yeah, so just imagine like kind of like the way the LCK works, just on a reduced basis. So like if you get the top group, and they played triple round robins against everyone, but instead of having five teams, you have 10. So obviously like triple round robin across an entire season would mean that like everyone has to play each other 3 times. But
so again,
for example,
it's just like the playoffs will be in the middle, but you might not have all played each other an even number of games in the playoffs.
Yes, exactly. But because you look at the number of like the victory score, you get the seeding decided by that. So by how many victories you got until that point. But the only issue would be you not actually having played against everyone the same number of times, because time constraint, and the fact that like you cannot really move out schedules when you know that the international is going to be placed in like, I don't know, March, June, July, whatever, and then Worlds at the end of the year.
I get what you mean. That I don't know. I feel like just for the sake of like teams having had like where you could have teams who have played weaker opponents versus other ones that have played tougher opponents, could just do it a bit. I think I'd just rather see just see them do the groups like in the LCK and LPL. I think that's like a big help that I would quite like.
Okay.
But just to chat more about the LCK itself for a few minutes. Is Gen.G, is this just like the best league team we've ever had? Like this current iteration of Gen.G? 29-1 in the LCK is absurd, especially when you think they've split in the groups as well. So they're only playing the best teams. I mean, that's just like ludicrous, isn't it?
Ooh. I mean, the whole thing for me is like the one thing that makes Gen.G so. I don't want to get my hopes too high because I feel like every time I get my hopes high for Gen.G, it never ends well. But I think we could say that I think this is probably the most dominant domestic run we've had. Like, I think probably even more so than the 18-0 done by T1.
Easily.
Just because of the sheer amount of matches being played. Like, you played BO3s in Fearless, and then you played against Half Life T1 3 times, I think, or like 2 times. Yeah, 3 times the split. And you beat them all like every single time.
Crazy.
So it's just crazy to me to think that, and I also feel like the whole thing about Gen.G is like they haven't even. It doesn't even look like they have been like try harding. Because it's always sounds so weird to put it that way, but it feels like Gen.G still has stuff hidden, or like hidden stuff like more cards up their sleeve, and it's I don't know. It feels like they're going to win playoffs. They're going to get another title, but then Worlds comes around, and that's when I get scared because it will be depending on the meta. It will depend on the patch. I think they deserve to win one because of all the of all how many years they've been like going after this title.
Yeah.
But you never know. It's.
Yeah. I was just looking going back to basically since like the road to MSI whatever started, so like beyond the LCK Cup. After that, throughout the whole rest of the year, that one loss they had to T1 a few weeks ago, that is like literally their only loss since April. Like since April, they won every game but one, including like the MSI run as well. That was an unbeaten MSI run. I mean, it's just crazy. I can't remember seeing a team that's like so dominant, especially in the LCK as well. It's just crazy. And also just to be able to do that, to have that consistency as well is like a thing beyond. Like you could be the best team by miles, but to also not have off days is like way easier said than done as well. Like when you're 28-1 and you're in the you're locked in first, like a top seed going into the playoffs. That 29th-1 game, like to still have the motivation and like not slip up at all throughout those is it's just crazy. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
And then maybe we move over to the LPL then, because does it also help at all, like for when we're talking about their chances at Worlds, that the LPL is like just, I don't know, like a few teams are like a bit shaky. Things is not like consistent.
It's been very messy. It's been very messy. Actually, I've watched IGBLG. I was watching IGBLG yesterday. I don't know if you saw the series, but basically Baytron got brought in back. Shadow got
Mid-series,
benched.
wasn't it?
Yeah, like he actually they swapped them out for BLG JDG. So like JDG initially was 2-0, and then BLG brought Baytron in and they reverse swept them. And then Baytron started yesterday as well. I think BLG has been looking a lot better. Like looking a little bit like I think more consistent. Even though they're still kind of messy, I think they have found out their way around the meta. And also like I think they know how IG kind of approaches the game, or like how they have been approaching the game, and so I think their preparation was pretty good. Like honestly, top 4 is still kind of the same because it should be IG, BLG, top esports, and AL. Even though you can see AL losing to Weibo, that was very, very unexpected. Like I felt like something could happen in that series, but it wouldn't actually like until I see it with my eyes, I couldn't really believe it. And so now it gets tricky for AL because they can qualify to Worlds through championship points, because the LPL is still the only one that uses championship points because of the consistency consistent results they had throughout the past 2 splits. But like, if AL now doesn't really go that much forward, but IG does, it through the lower bracket, IG's actually can surpass, can pass them, and that would mean that AL is completely out of Worlds. So this is very do or die moment for them. I think for the rest, it's I think top esports and BLG are pretty much set in stone. I'm actually being very impressed by top. I think I used to give them to shout them a lot because of all the international stuff, but domestically they've been very great. Jackie has been insane to me, and I don't know if you know, but the guy has been apparently dealing with all sorts of physical problems and issues. And it's unluckily this could be he said he might take a break next year, so this is a last dance for him. That could be a great story, because obviously taking the world championship in China after how many years is it? 7 years 7 years from the IG days. That could be a really great story. But yeah, it's just honestly, compared to Gen.G, who has looked so composed and just consistent, LPL teams are much more up and down.
Yeah.
Which is great for entertainment, because you never know what happens, so you kind of have to tune into every match. But at the same time, if we're always going for the LPL against LCK comparison, how confident are you to say that any of these teams can actually go and take down T1 or Gen.G, and even Hanwha Life to a certain extent? You don't really know, do you?
Yeah.
So that's always
at the very least
issue.
you would, if you didn't follow what's gone on with the roster, you would see BLG still always up around the top. They got to Worlds final last year with most of the same roster, and you would think, oh well, BLG they seem quite a stable team, when actually they're clearly not either. So
I mean, I feel like they probably have to just swap out junglers every 5-6 games, and they probably might be the best team in the world. I feel like there's something going on with the magic behind it. Actually, I think I remember watching a video on Bilibili, which is basically Chinese YouTube, about someone. Shout out to this guy. Maybe if you can find the link. He kind of explained as to why he thinks BLG somehow makes looks better every time they change junglers. And I think that could be a good explanation. So basically what he said is because when you have someone coming in the team, especially if you're a jungler, the team kind of wants to play around the jungler. They kind of want to make the player comfortable in how he dictates the pace, the game, and how he plays. So the team is more willingly to play out around him. But and this is what happened with Beitron. This has happened with Wei last year. This has happened with Shadow this year as well. This split as well. But over time, the other 4 who have a very lane focused and selfish playstyle in that sense, they kind of want to play for themselves. That mentality and that approach kind of takes over. So then the jungler kind of tilts. Or the jungler is being forced to play in a way that is very not his natural way. Unless and that causes a decrease in performance of the jungler, and then therefore of the entire team. And so that's why BLG apparently makes it work for a few matches, and then it dies off, and then they bring someone in, and it's rinse and repeat all the time. I think that was a really good example. I'm not really sure whether that's actually what goes behind the scenes, but I think knowing how generally teams play, and obviously knowing Shadow as a player who's very vocal and is always very proactive, he's kind of one of the guys that wants wants stuff to make stuff to happen on the map, and he kind of can mechanically be there to, match them, like a high tempo jungler. That could be an explanation.
Yeah.
For IG, I'm kind of sad that they lost because I really want to see them at Worlds, just because I know it would drive it. Like IG is literally, in terms of engagement, it's like Chinese T1.
Yeah.
If they are there, that we're going to have skyrocket numbers. So I just really want to see them there. It's now going to be very tough because now they have to face probably AL, who has to win against INIP. And that match could be very tricky for both ways, because it could literally decide both teams, either team's fate and chances of going to Worlds.
It's interesting that BLG theory, because otherwise, I think it was Nymera on Twitter described it as when teams change a jungler, it's like doing open heart surgery. Like, it's such like an integral part of like how the team will play and the whole team's identity, how the jungler will play. It's like absolutely like the last position to be able to like plug and play and swap people out, and yet they're doing it every 5 minutes. So there's got to be like some kind of reason why it is partially working and it isn't a massive issue every time they do it, or it's not like an immediate struggle, and in fact the opposite, where they change jungler and suddenly get better. So yeah, there's got to be some something odd going on there. Sure.
What do you think? Who would you choose as your 4 if you had to choose 4 teams, based on someone who probably doesn't follow LPL as much? Like, just judging by your preferences.
My preference is like who I think would go in or who I'd like to make it.
Both.
Who I think then, yeah, my guess is as good as anyone, I suppose. Probably just the top 4 that were already the top 4 that like seem to be the locked in ones, like you said. Yeah, top IG, BLG, and AL. It's probably my easy option. In terms of who I'd like BLG. Just because I like the succession stories that when we get things like over years. So I'd like BLG just to be there to like continue their international story as well, especially when it's like the similar players too. Plus, I mean, everyone would like to see Bin back at Worlds, I think. IG would be the next one, again for like that longer story of like the Shine rookie coming back to IG to take them back to the top. I think top esports, just because I like their thing as well, of like the LPL form versus international form, and if they could break that.
Okay.
And then I think beyond that, I'm not sure I have a particular 4th. Maybe if Weibo could pull it out and get in there. Just so I like Zhao, who is like one of the veteran players. To have had like one of these long story careers as well.
I have this flash the other day when like Weibo won against AL. Weibo is literally the 3rd best team in terms of like Worlds performances over the past 3 years. It's like it's T1 BLG and then Weibo, and you're like, it doesn't seem right, but actually, if you think about it, it does, because like the team like made finals, they made semifinals last year, and so it's kind of just crazy to me that this could be like another like random run by Weibo with Xiaohu, and this guy that just like never dies,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe we'll move on to one final topic just for a few minutes quickly before we wrap up. Which is taking a step down back to Europe. Is Los Ratones confirming that they're going to play in EMEA Masters. If you remember, there was like the controversy around the scheduling of EMEA Masters, so there will be a LAN final. I think wasn't it in France somewhere? But it's going to be like on one of the last couple of days of Worlds, like the same day. But it would be like in the morning or something, I guess, so it doesn't clash. But still, it's like the end of EU Masters will happen while Worlds is ongoing, which had like threw up a bunch of issues. Firstly, just the obvious fact of like everyone's going to be interested in Worlds. Who gives a shit about EMEA Masters at that point? But also then just Cagel specifically, really, or Cagel and Los Ratones. Really, just the fact that it means that they were limited in opportunities to do their own content stuff around Worlds. Like when the news first came out of the scheduling, I think it was like Reckless had been seen in Cagel's chat saying like, "Don't we just skip EU Masters and go to Korea to boot camp," which would have been like a unique content opportunity for their team. And so there was like a bit of like, will they, won't they, in terms of that, and will Cagel go to? Because obviously you'd expect Cagel to be in China, the co-stream in the arena, especially like World's final. If it's like literally 1 day later or 1 or 2 days later after EMA Masters.
No, I don't think that's an issue though, because like
No?
finals is on the 9th, EU Masters finals is on the 2nd.
Oh,
So
right, fair
like
enough.
the only issue would be semis.
Yeah.
Because of like it actually should be World Semis first and then EU Masters after.
Right.
Because they play at, I think it's like 7. It's like some like very like late afternoon, like evening times
Okay.
for EMA. So then I don't think that would be an issue of like having Keijo flying into Chengdu for the final.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you don't really know whether Keijo like will actually be with the team or like
Yeah.
co-stream. Even like co-streaming would be like a hell of a thing for Keijo to do.
Exactly.
Like
He's meant to be like
shout out to the
coaching his
guy
team
literally.
in their own big tournament. Like, has he got time to be co-streaming Worlds that's like the same day?
Yeah, same days, and then also like with the time zone diff, it means like this guy probably doesn't get any sleep at all. I just wonder, like, I just hope the guy can manage it. But yeah, I think it's. I'm not sure what went behind the scenes. I would assume that they're probably like in the discussions with Riot and organizers. I think they're probably from like Riot's perspective, there was going to be someone like calling, like being very steady in their position in the sense that probably repercussions would have been taken if Lost Ratones were to miss out the EMA Masters, just
And it would
because
just make a
obviously that's
complete mockery of that tournament.
it makes a complete mockery of the tournament. It would ruin also like the potential, like I said, commercial value that comes with it, because obviously you're expecting X amount of interaction, engagement, and stuff, viewership, and with lots like with the team gone, obviously that would basically be killed, and also at the same time the whole competitive integrity thing. Like you like being the NLC first seed, it means that you're taking someone else's chance of making it to like to the tournament, and obviously also kind of kills the entire prestige because you're technically the defending champions for like 2 splits straight, and then you're just gone. So I think it's good that the team actually took the kind of like the rational choice. From that perspective, it doesn't. It's probably sad, but I don't think it's sad at the same time, because I feel like obviously it's a great chance to go to Korea to boot camp and play against the world teams, but will this actually be the last chance for Lost Ratones to actually get those? I don't really think so.
Yeah, for sure.
But I actually think that it's actually more rare for Lost Ratones to have such a successful run every split, like winning everything from start to finish, because you don't really know what happens next year. Like you don't really know where Lost Ratones might go, which then links up to, I think, the next question is what actually are they going to do? Because I don't like. I think no one wants them to be in like tier 2 again, because if they actually win like some EM Master Summer, they literally won everything. They don't have anything else to prove themselves to, and I don't think people would be very interested in seeing them going at it for another year.
Yeah.
So where are they going? Because like I don't think LEC is not a thing, and I think Cage also said confirmed that they're not going to the LEC anyway. If they want, they should go to probably like LTA, another region. I actually just want to see them in tier 1. I don't really care which one, honestly. As long as we get to see these boys in tier 1, I think we're going to have finally the proof of seeing whether actually they're as legit as, like, you know, like a legit team that can go against the top teams.
Well, do you know in like LTA, how often is the promotion? Is it just once a year?
Yeah. But the whole thing is actually like the promotion thing is it's taking place right after. Like technically, like what Lost Ratones will have to do is somehow find a way to get into tier 2 in the LTA. But then they would also have the issue with the imports, because they would need residents. And then play the entire year, work their way through the LTA promotion tournament, and then get into tier 1. I doubt that Riot will be giving them the slot entirely.
The only other thing, like maybe the 100 Thieves slot, like wasn't that's like a provisional partner or something? That's maybe an option if they could get in without having to pay a fee.
Yeah, that's also the other thing, and I think, but like actually, I think that's probably kind of the way you can work around it. But at the same time, like, would I really want Lost Ratones to go leave Europe and go to NA in that sense? Like, obviously, I know it's going to drive crazy engagement over there. It's going to be good, I think, for most parties involved, but at the same time, it's going to be a loss for Europe, you know? Like, down the line, this is going to be a loss for Europe.
I think if you're Riot, you're like you have to be begging them to come to be that slot. 100 Thieves don't seem like that keen on it anyway, just like beg Cadril on your knees to go to the LTA.
That could be a thing. I'm
not
like, sure.
They can't just sit in tier 2. Like, maybe they could try and go to a different region in tier 2, but even then it's like the same story really. Like EMEA Masters, if they win that 3 times, who cares whatever league they do it from? And then, like, what tier 1 chances have they really got? They're not obviously going to go to fucking LCK or LPL. Even like they need to they probably want to keep as much of the roster together as they can. Obviously, if they went to the LTA, they wouldn't be able to keep the whole thing for like residency rules or whatever. But they could still at least keep a couple of pieces. I feel like it's like that's the only option if they want to keep like building the story and do something different. That seems like the logical step to me. Let me see what other option they got, to be fair.
I think it would be interesting to see. Like, honestly, anyway, like, regardless of what happens, I think I just want to see, like, Lost Ratones actually play more matches against tier 1 teams. I think that's the bottom line. Like, we know, obviously, they've just screamed against teams over the past year. But I just want to see them on stage. I think that would be, I think, obvious, what most people want. Yeah.
So I guess, like, the obvious issue with, well, one of the obvious issues with that is also the fact that, like, the big names that they have right now, part of the allure of that project probably is that they're all like kind of chilling from home while they're playing. Like Reckless went back to Sweden for a bit and he can stream and play from there. Like if they went to the LTA, whoever sticks with them would have to go to the to LA and live there. And probably Cadril, realistically, like he'd surely be expected to be there as the coach as well. So, although I'm sure he could probably get away with like twisting Riot's arm there if he wanted to. But yeah, it's complicated. Whatever they go for, I suppose. Have to wait and see. I think we can wrap it there for this week. Davide, have you got any other pressing things on your mind before we close up?
Just wanted to know, like, if you had to name a team that you were looking forward to seeing at VCT, because I know it's it's starting soon.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, like, I haven't caught up much.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see, like, who's your money on?
The money is on PaperX. I think everyone's money is on PaperX. They won Masters Toronto, and then went back to Pacific, and then won Pacific like fairly comfortably. So there's like they won Masters Toronto, and then there's no reason to doubt that they've dipped since then. So they're like easily the favourites, and then beyond them is G2, who is of all the regions worldwide, G2 is the only team that in their own region won more than one competition this year. So there's like the 3 stages or like the 3 events per region. In the other 3 regions, you had 3 different winners in every one of them. G2 won Americas 3 times in a row, so they're the only like proper consistent team. But they hadn't been able to win the global events yet. They came second in Bangkok, and then they came 4th in Toronto. So they're not exactly doing bad internationally, but they're just like, they just need a global title to kind of get the recognition they deserve, I suppose. Like if they didn't win anything globally this year, and then 5 years later, probably you wouldn't really think of them as one of like the great rosters. Whereas they've kind of been like especially dominant regionally that nobody else has done. So they're like the two clear teams at the top. And then beyond that, I think there's like a few interesting ones. Part of the qualification for this was on championship points, which was like the thing of across the year. So weirdly, you've got a few teams who have qualified despite not being that good recently. Like MIBR from the Americas have been like especially quite shit for like the last 3 months, and so there's like zero expectation for them to do anything. But they got a slot. They even got it controversially through like tiebreaker rules that were different in Americas compared to every other region. If every other region's rules were used in Americas, they wouldn't even be there. So MLBR is like an interesting one. A few teams like that. EDG have been like rocky this year, but they're the holders as well. Yeah. So it's like that continuation is going to be interesting. So yeah, there's plenty of teams to look at, and watch Hotspawn's coverage because we've got shitloads of stuff coming over the next few weeks.
Excited.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm actually excited because I don't know. I feel like Valorant matches are so great to watch. So
it's especially like I think just a really good thing with Valorant is that there is a lot of parity between the regions. So it's not really. True. It's not like in champs where like in Worlds where it's nice we've got these teams in play-ins, but they're not going anywhere in the tournament. In Valorant, like literally, I wouldn't say every team looks like they could have a deep run, but at least every region, like you can't guarantee where the winner's coming from. It could easily be from any of the 4. So yeah, it's really nice, really very fun. Right, let's leave it there then, because I've got to run. Thanks for your time, Davide. Thanks as always, and thanks to the listeners and the watchers for listening and watching. And we'll catch you next time. See you later.
Goodbye.